Hey everyone, Amanda here. Hope you're all having a wonderful day, afternoon, night, whatever it is for you. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different. So, still a Musings with Amanda, but a little bit shorter. We're going to make it like a short and sweet snippet into self care and what this actually means, and the nuances of self care, and how it is that you can actually put some practices into play right now to better care for yourself, which I think maybe if you're anything like me, you're in a little bit more need of that with how the world is and all of its glory right now. So if you're feeling that, sit back, grab a cup of tea, do whatever you need to do, and we'll chat a little bit more about what this looks like. So, first, I want to, define self care and maybe take out some of the new age way of looking at it, because self care is deeply, deeply important and needed. But I think a lot of the time when we think of the word self care, we hear bubble baths and essential oils. And it's so, so much more than that. That's one aspect for sure, absolutely. But we really need to think about it in ways of how are you fundamentally caring for your mind, body, and spirit. So, all aspects of your being, how is that being cared for? And when I mean care, I mean that long term growth, that long term resilience. And this is where we get into kind of the nuance of it. So, in psychology, we have one way of looking at it. We'll look at it as you can think of emotion focused coping or problem focused coping, but I'm going to label those a little bit more like day to day. So, when I think of those, I think of self care being one thing and self soothing being another. So, self soothing is what we do right in the moment to help us feel a little bit better. So, think of if you got like a cut on your arm and it's hurting. A lot of the time, we can put like a salve or a balm on it to make it feel better right then and there. And then maybe it needs more long term care or self care. So, self soothing, think of it as that in the moment, what do I need to do to make myself feel even just 1% better? So, an example of this might be if I think like back in the day, say a boy broke my heart or hurt me in whatever way. In that very moment when I'm feeling hurt or angry or betrayed, that emotion coursing through my body is what I want to soothe. I want to tell the parts of me that are hurting, it's okay and I've got you. So in those moments, it might be a glass of red wine with the girls and talking about it and just getting into why you're hurt, why you're frustrated, and having a bit of a rant session. That might be a form of self-soothing for you. For some, it might be ice cream and Netflix. It might be the bubble baths and essential oils. It might be walking in nature or meeting with close friends and thinking of it as community care and bringing people in. Whatever is going to make you feel good right here and now. I think of singing loudly in my car or buying like a fancy drink, like a fancy coffee or something that in the moment I'm like, yeah, you know what? This makes me feel good. It's that thing that helps me build back up my sense of resilience so that I can then move towards self-care. Because for me, when I think of self-care, it's more of that problem-focused coping. It's more of that long-term setting myself up for growth and success. So what I think of is going to the dentist or the doctor on a regular basis and getting checkups and making sure that all of my hygiene is optimal and I'm taking care of myself from the inside out. I think of going to therapy and having a counselor or psychologist that I can work through my whatever with. I think of meditation, massage, yoga for mind, body, spirit. I even think of like sitting down and doing my monthly budget and really getting clear on what that looks like. So this might be something where I can think of, okay, money's really stressing me out right now, and I might soothe when I look at that big Visa bill that comes in or whatever and think, oh my gosh, I've spent so much money and I'm feeling really overwhelmed with the fact that maybe I'm not so great with money. So I might, in the movement, soothe and throw on an episode of Netflix so that I can just tune out for a minute, soothe myself, get back up and running, and then I sit down and look at my finances and think, okay, what is a budget? What does this look like for me? How am I going to make sure that I'm setting myself up for success? And who are the people that I'm calling in to help me? What does that look like? So think of the things that you can really do for yourself to do both of these. So you might have a moment where you reflect, okay, what do I do to soothe? What do I do to actually think about right here, right now, what's going to make me feel better? And then when you build up your resilience and you're feeling a little bit stronger, a little bit more rested or clear, what are you doing to care for yourself? What's that thing that's kind of your like act of resistance, the thing that makes you feel powerful again and feel like you have control over your life, control over elements of your life. We can't control everything, obviously, but control over certain elements of your life so that you feel like the badass that you are. That's the most important part of self-care for me, is this idea of what makes it feel as if I am my own cheerleader or best friend. I am my own advocate. I'm the one that is truly looking after my best interest and making sure that I'm doing things that speak to all elements, all aspects of my being, be it my spiritual health, be it my mental health, my energetic health, my emotional health, my physical health. Because when I look at this, I bring in my spirituality, I bring in my yoga and my practice of yoga. And within that, we look at the 5 dimensions of the body. We think of mind, so the mental body, the physical body, energetic, emotional, and spiritual. All of those aspects need to be considered when we think of this idea of self-care. Because if I'm only focusing on, say I go to the gym and I'm thinking about my physical health, great, perfect. And that might even seep into other elements, like going to the gym might give you a little bit more mental clarity because we've got those endorphins and the hormones that course through the body because of it. Going to yoga might be your physical aspect. It might also seep into mental, emotional, energetic, and spiritual because you get all of those elements. So think of it. You might even draw a little circle and do this as a reflection practice. So draw a circle if that calls to you and split it into those 5 pieces of the pie. So think of your physical, mental, emotional, energetic, and spiritual. You can add more. You can think of your professional life. You can think of your personal life and your relationships. Add anything to that piece of pie that resonates. And then jot down inside of that all of the things that you do, either be it self-soothing or be it self-care. And you might start to see a trend. You might see certain aspects of your life that you really focus on and you've got it on lock and you're like, yeah, I am cared for in those areas. Then you might see others and you're like, all right, we need a little more attention here. And then get curious. Either talk with friends and say, what do you do for professional care? And when I think of professional care, I think of things like having really uncomfortable or difficult conversations with coworkers or boss or employees, and making sure that my professional life feels as stable and supportive as it can so that it's not one more element of toxicity or one more element of stress. How am I caring for myself in those regards? So that might be a reflection tool that you take on and something that you sit with and ask, okay, if I look at all elements of my life, break it down into different components, and then get really curious, How do I soothe when something goes wrong in those areas? And then how do I care for myself so that it sets me up for longevity, resilience, that sense of growth in those areas, so that you're taking care of all of you, your whole being. And I think that's what's really important about this self-care and self-soothing aspect, is that life doesn't seem to be getting any easier for a lot of people. We have so many challenges working against us. We have so many systems and structures and adversity and challenge that we're facing on the daily. If all of these things external to us some are in our control, some are out of our control, but the thing that we do have control over is ourselves and our own internal workings, our own internal machinery, if you will. So if we can take as much care of our internal landscape and ensure that we're doing all of these things to better them and grow them, then we know that over time we'll be able to handle those external forces a little bit easier. We can bounce back from them a little bit quicker. So when I look at this, my biggest offering is think of your self-care tactics or your self-care regimen as something that's rebuilding your resilience. It's rebuilding your capacity to show up and to interact with the world around you. And that's, I think, the biggest thing. When we can take back elements of control and feel a little bit more empowered over aspects and areas of our lives, that's what we all want. We all want to be these badass owners of ourselves and our experiences. So this is just one tool that you can use. If that reflection calls to you, by all means, sit down, maybe light some incense, grab a cup of tea, whatever you need, and do a little bit of journaling. Get to know yourself a little bit more and think, where am I already doing a badass, incredible job? And where do I need to elevate or pull in some more tips and tools? So that's us for today. I kept it short and sweet so that we can really start to dissect these concepts and dive into what these look like. So self-care is one that I get asked about all of the time. And I know we have previous episodes on it and we speak to it so much, but maybe that's how important it is, that it keeps coming up and it keeps coming full circle. So maybe today, this is the reminder that you and myself need to take that little bit more time for us so that we can continue to show up for ourselves and show up for those that we care about and those that are outside of our community, and start to build these stronger and more resilient local and global communities, because that's what it's all about, caring for ourselves to care for our communities. So thank you for being here. I would love to hear your thoughts. I would love to hear anything else that you want to talk about or hear about. Drop me a line, send me a message. I am always open. And I hope you find pockets of rest and care today.